Welcome, friend. Tonight we drift together into 150 anime openings facts to fall asleep. 2. A soft, unhurried journey through the songs that once opened stories and now open memories, through melodies that carried us across time and into dreams. This is a video meant not for noise or excitement, but for quiet reflection, for the feeling of lying beneath a fading glow, remembering the voices and rhythms that once made your heart rise before the first scene even began. We'll move slowly through each opening, exploring the emotions behind the music, the joy, the sorrow, the courage, until every note feels like an old friend returning to say goodnight. Maybe you'll remember your first anime, or the one that carried you through a difficult time. Maybe you'll simply let the music wash over you like a lullaby from another world. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, what city, what time of night, what place in the world you call home right now. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe so you can come back whenever sleep feels distant and we can wander again through stories, songs, and dreams together. Fact 1. The first true anime opening as we know it came from Astro Boy in 1963, a simple, marching tune filled with optimism and curiosity, created at a time when Japan was rebuilding and dreaming of the future, making the boy made of metal a symbol of hope. Its melody carried innocence and progress at once, showing that even animation could hold the spirit of a nation learning to stand again. And in doing so, it gave birth to the idea that music could become the voice of imagination, teaching generations to believe in heroes who looked up instead of down. Fact 2. From that point forward, every anime opening became more than just an introduction. It became ritual, the bridge between daily life and story, a 1-minute promise that whatever came next would feel larger than life. Each note trained us to expect adventure, teaching our minds to recognize the opening chords as the sound of possibility. And through repetition, these melodies stitched themselves into our memories so deeply that decades later, even a single bar can make us feel like children again, waiting for worlds to open with the glow of a title card and a heartbeat of rhythm. Fact 3. As the 1,970 seconds arrived, color television transformed openings into living paintings, their palettes growing brighter and their songs more expressive, blending Japanese enka sadness with Western pop energy, a sound both nostalgic and new. Series like Candy Candy and Space Battleship Yamato filled screens with pastel skies and orchestral strings, creating openings that felt cinematic long before animation was treated as film. These sequences taught composers and directors that emotion was universal, that joy, loss, and wonder could be communicated without dialogue, only melody and movement, setting the stage for decades of musical storytelling to come. Fact 4. Then came Lupin III in 1971, whose jazzy, mischievous opening changed everything by proving that a song could embody personality. The brass swaggered, the percussion winked, and the melody danced with the same charm as Lupin himself, blending heist movie flair with animation's newfound sophistication. It was playful, yet elegant, stylish, yet reckless, a tune that could have belonged in smoky clubs or moonlit car chases, making it impossible to separate the character from his theme. In that moment, anime discovered attitude, showing that music could narrate as powerfully as words or images ever could. Fact 5. When Mobile Suit Gundam appeared in 1979, it carried with it an anthem of courage, Tobe Gundam, a song that sang not about machines but about the fragile hearts inside them. Its lyrics urged humanity to rise, to keep believing even amid ruin, echoing through the decade as Japan's youth faced rapid change and uncertainty. The melody was hopeful yet solemn, and audiences felt in it the weight of duty and the promise of evolution. It turned the image of a pilot in battle into something spiritual, reminding everyone that strength was never in steel but in the will to continue. Fact 6. Through the 1,980 seconds, technology brought bigger sound. Synthesizers, reverb, and electric guitars filled every space between beats, creating openings that felt boundless. The futuristic hum of Macross, the pulse of Saint Seiya, and the raw drive of Dragon Ball reshaped soundtracks into anthems. Music no longer followed, story it led it. Fans recorded themes on cassette tapes, played them at festivals, and sang them in arcades, turning openings into shared experience. The songs stopped belonging only to characters and started belonging to people, transforming anime from a screen-bound medium into a living culture that existed far beyond its episodes. Fact 7. The timing of an opening became its secret magic, that perfect moment when music and animation aligned, when the singer's high note struck at the exact second a hero's eyes opened or a title burst across the screen. Directors discovered that synchronization could create emotional memory. The brain linked the beat to the image to the feeling, and the feeling to identity. That's why, even years later, when you hear the first second of Bluebird or Chala Head Chala, your pulse still matches the rhythm you are not remembering. You are reliving the moment it first took hold. Fact 8. By the late 1,980 seconds, anime openings had become cultural fixtures in Japan. Musicians like Hironobu Kageyama and Megumi Hayashibara blurred the lines between pop idol and storyteller, crafting songs that lived both on television and in radio charts. The energy of those themes spilled into karaoke bars where students sang them for courage, into malls where stores played them as background comfort, into playgrounds where children mimicked their heroes. The opening had ceased to be marketing. It had become memory collective and living, uniting people who might never meet, yet carried the same tune quietly inside their hearts. Fact 9. What made those openings unforgettable wasn't complexity, but intention. Every frame, every drum beat, every word was designed to prepare the soul for feeling. The visual rhythm of running feet, of rising suns, of silhouettes against endless skies mirrored the tempo of hope itself. The openings were emotional choreography, moving us toward catharsis before the story even began. They became miniature journeys, beginnings that contained endings, cycles repeating every week, so we could learn again that expectation is its own kind of joy, the joy of knowing something beautiful is about to happen, even if we've seen it 1,000 times. Fact 10. And as that first era drew to its close, something unspoken lingered, the understanding that every opening, no matter how brief, is a doorway. To press play is to cross that threshold again, to feel the wind, the light, the thrill of possibility. These songs became our lullabies for waking life, reminders that every story begins not in chaos but in music, not in endings but in rhythm. The anime opening had taught the world that beginnings are sacred, that melody can hold memory, and that even as time moves forward, the first note never really fades away. Fact 11. As anime grew beyond Japan's borders, its openings began to travel too, their melodies crossing oceans long before subtitles did, carried on cassette tapes, late-night broadcasts, and whispers among fans. One voice that became immortal in this passage of sound was Yoko Takahashi's, whose A Cruel Angel's thesis for Neon Genesis Evangelion defined an entire generation, her voice soaring above synthesizers like a hymn to both despair and hope. The song's power lay not in its meaning alone, but in its ambiguity, words that sounded triumphant yet uncertain, just like the fragile, searching hearts of those who listened. Fact 12. When Hikaru Utada sang Simple and Clean for Kingdom Hearts, she didn't just write a song. She redefined the tone of early 2000s anime and gaming culture, blending melancholy with serenity, her vocals both whisper and cry. The beauty of her work wasn't that it demanded attention, but that it existed quietly, patiently, finding its way into the emotional DNA of a generation that grew up associating her voice with safety. Even today, those first soft chords can return people instantly to childhood bedrooms, glowing screens, and the feeling that something infinite lived inside ordinary nights. Fact 13. In the 1,990 seconds, as animation studios began to collaborate more closely with musicians, a new form of artistic symbiosis emerged. Openings became less commissioned work and more creative partnership. Bands like Lark, Tilda and Tilda CL and Asian Kung Fu Generation brought their own philosophy into anime music, making each opening feel personal rather than corporate. Ready Steady Go from Full Metal Alchemist and Haruka Kanata from Naruto were not just songs, they were personal statements about ambition and identity, blending rock rebellion with vulnerability, making teenagers around the world feel that their growing pains had found a voice in rhythm. Fact 14. The beauty of these collaborations was their honesty. Singers didn't just perform, they felt. When Maaya Sakamoto sang Yakusoku wa Iranai for the vision of Escaflowne, her delicate tone carried a wistfulness that could only belong to someone who understood longing firsthand. The song became a quiet storm, tender, aching, infinite, reminding audiences that voice acting and singing were not separate crafts but two facets of the same soul. Through her, anime discovered emotional subtlety, that not all power is loud, and that sometimes the softest voices echo the longest in memory. Fact 15. Yoko Kanno, both composer and mystic of melody, became the invisible architect of emotion during this era, crafting soundtracks and openings that blended jazz, choir, and silence with a painter's patience. Her collaborations with vocalists like Origa and Arai Aquino created worlds through sound alone. Cowboy Bebop's Tank was kinetic jazz adrenaline, while Ghost in the Shell, Stand-Alone Complex's inner universe, was synthetic spirituality. She treated openings not as advertisements but as stories within stories, teaching that music could expand a show's universe before its characters even spoke, awakening the imagination in ways words could not. Fact 16. By the early 2000s, anime openings had become emotional passports. You could hear them anywhere in the world and instantly feel connection. The voice of Flow, with songs like Go and Sign, carried youthful defiance, an anthem for those learning courage, one step at a time. The joy in their delivery wasn't about technical perfection but communal energy. Their choruses invited participation, like friends shouting from rooftops. These openings turned anxiety into enthusiasm, reminding every listener that energy itself is a form of hope, that even uncertainty can sound like celebration if sung loudly enough. Fact 17. Lisa's arrival marked a new era of voice-driven storytelling. Her work on Sword Art Online and Demon Slayer bridging traditional J-pop and modern emotional rock. Her voice trembles between power and vulnerability, soaring with the strength of someone who has learned pain but refuses to bow to it. Gurenge, her anthem for Demon Slayer, carries the weight of determination within its every beat, the sound of running through fire yet smiling. In her performance, the modern anime opening found its soul again, fierce, human, and luminous, teaching that bravery and beauty often wear the same face. Fact 18. Male vocalists too carried this evolution forward. Kenshi Yonezu's peace sign for My Hero Academia is as much an emotional action poem as it is a pop song, mixing buoyant optimism with quiet introspection. His artistry lies in contradiction, a man writing about hope as if it were fragile, a melody that runs like sunlight but aches like memory. It mirrors the essence of heroism that the series celebrates: the courage to be imperfect, the grace to fail and rise again. His song, like so many before it, reminds us that sincerity is the strongest superpower of all. Fact 19. Air Aoi, with her crystalline tone and emotional precision, became a symbol of transcendence through hardship. Her voice, ethereal yet grounded, carried themes of survival and resilience, particularly through her work on Sword Art Online and Kill la Kill. When she sings, it feels like falling through light, a sound of surrender that somehow becomes strength. Many fans describe her music as a place rather than a song, a field of emotion one can step into. That quality, the ability to turn melody into landscape, became one of the most magical aspects of anime music itself. Fact 20. Every singer who has lent their voice to an anime opening, from the earliest pioneers to today's artists, shares a quiet legacy. They've taught us how to feel without explanation. Their voices became mirrors of our own emotions, carrying us from childhood into adulthood and back again, creating a bridge between imagination and identity. And though decades separate Astro Boy from Demon Slayer, the soul beneath the song remains the same, that tender balance of longing and joy, the sound of the human heart learning, again and again, that beginnings can be beautiful forever. Fact 21. The beauty of an anime opening lies not only in sound, but in the way sound and image breathe together, forming a rhythm that feels like memory taking shape before the story even begins. The earliest directors understood this instinctively, treating every frame as a note, every cut as a beat. In the 1,980 seconds, hand-painted cells glided across orchestral openings like brushstrokes, soft and deliberate, each one synchronizing with the rising melody. This fusion of sight and sound gave openings their poetic texture, allowing emotion to exist before dialogue and teaching that music could speak through color and movement. Fact 22. As technology evolved, animators began to match motion precisely to rhythm, crafting sequences that danced with sound rather than simply accompanying it. A spinning sword might slice perfectly in time with a cymbal crash, or a character's footstep might land on the first note of a chorus. These micro-synchronizations created an instinctive harmony, one that the audience could feel even without consciously noticing. Directors like Shinya Ohira and Tetsuya Nishio mastered this kinetic art, treating every beat as choreography and transforming anime openings into moving symphonies, where even silence pulsed in rhythm with invisible music. Fact 23. One of the most mesmerizing examples of visual rhythm appeared in Cowboy Bebop, where Yoko Kanno's jazz masterpiece, Tank, became the pulse of an opening that moved like improvisation itself. Quick cuts, minimalist color, and smooth saxophone riffs turned a 30-second sequence into visual syncopation, teaching that energy can exist without chaos. The animation didn't just match the music, it played it. Each frame a note, each shadow a beat. The sequence's simplicity was its brilliance, proving that an opening doesn't need narrative to captivate. It only needs confidence in rhythm, in trust between image and sound. Fact 24. The use of color in openings acts as emotional language, each hue carrying tone as clearly as melody. Blue often symbolizes reflection and distance. Red embodies drive and tension. Gold reflects nostalgia and fulfillment. When Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood opens with warm, sunlit skies before fading into darkness, we feel hope and despair share a single breath. The transition of palettes mirrors the arc of its Karjin story, not through words, but through visual temperature. Color becomes storytelling, hue becomes heart. These artistic choices guide our emotions subconsciously, painting our mood before we even know what we're feeling. Fact 25. Symbolism thrives in motion. Birds in flight, outstretched hands, rippling water, crumbling leaves, all recurring motifs in anime openings, each representing change, freedom, or the quiet ache of time passing. In Naruto Shippuden's Blue Bird, the image of wings against sky carries a double meaning, both escape and acceptance, both dream and distance. These symbols work because they bypass logic and reach directly into intuition, teaching the viewer to feel transformation rather than simply watch it. The imagery repeats across decades, like visual poetry retold by different voices, its meaning shifting yet its soul always the same. Fact 26. Some directors, like Makoto Shinkai, turned openings into pure atmosphere, shimmering light, drifting petals, reflections in rain, all timed to the fragile patience of piano chords. His openings for early works, like Voices of a Distant Star, created feelings of silence more powerful than dialogue. The interplay of slow pans and lingering shots suggested longing without ever naming it, giving the viewer permission to experience sadness as beauty. In these openings, time seems to hold its breath. The movement isn't action, it's meditation. It's the visual form of a sigh, gently dissolving into the music's stillness. Fact 27. When studios began to embrace computer-assisted motion in the late 2000s, the precision of openings reached new heights. In Attack on Titan's Guren no Yumiya, the synchronized sweeps of the Survey Corps against roaring choral music created visual rhythm so sharp it felt architectural. The camera itself became an instrument, moving with symphonic timing, accelerating through lines of action like a conductor leading strings and brass. This mechanical precision, paired with emotional intensity, showed that technology could amplify artistry, turning battle into choreography, chaos into form, and motion itself into language for the soul's defiance. Fact 28. The framing of characters in openings tells stories of perspective long before we know their names. Close-ups imply vulnerability. Wide shots speak of isolation or ambition. In Death Note's opening, The World, extreme angles and shifting lenses distort reality to mirror light's descent into godhood, every tilt of the camera echoing psychological tension. The audience may not analyze the technique, but the emotion resonates: unease, fascination, power. The shot composition becomes invisible storytelling, shaping how we perceive the characters long before dialogue confirms it. In this way, the visual grammar of openings writes its own kind of prophecy. Fact 29. One of the most fascinating qualities of openings is their impermanence, how they evolve with each season, each arc, subtly changing tone or imagery to match emotional growth. These small alterations, a new color filter, a replaced image, a different expression act like musical modulations, signaling transformation. One Piece has perfected this ritual, using its countless openings to mirror the crew's journey, each visual change a verse in an endless song. Watching them in order feels like reading a diary written in music and light, each new frame a soft echo of the one before. Fact 30. In the end, visual poetry is the soul of every anime opening, the meeting of sound, color, and movement into one seamless breath. It is why we remember these sequences long after we've forgotten plot lines, why a single frame can trigger the melody that follows it. Openings are not introductions, they are invocations, calling forth feeling before thought, emotion before story. They remind us that animation, at its highest form, is not about what we see or hear, but about what we remember. Afterward, the afterimage that glows behind our eyelids as we drift into sleep. Fact 31. There are certain anime openings that did more than define a show. They reshaped the culture surrounding it, leaving behind ripples that would never fade. Dragon Ball Z's Cha-La Head Cha-La, sung by Hironobu Kageyama, became one such anthem, its wild optimism and unrestrained energy capturing the very soul of adventure. The song didn't just announce an episode, it declared a philosophy that strength could be joyous, that power could be kind. For millions of fans, those first notes became morning sunlight, a promise that imagination could defy gravity itself and that laughter could still sound heroic. Fact 32. When Naruto Shippuden introduced Bluebird by Ikemonogakari, it gave the world more than a theme song. It offered a feeling of release, of transformation wrapped in melancholy. The opening's imagery of flight and falling sky mirrored the emotional maturity of its characters, while the melody soared gently between longing and resolve. Across the world, fans learned to hum it without knowing the words, feeling instead the meaning carried through its tone, freedom tinged with memory, sadness painted as beauty. In that song, the universal language of adolescence found a soundtrack that would never grow old. Fact 33. Few openings have ever captured revolution as perfectly as Attack on Titan's Guren no Yumiya. Its choral grandeur and militaristic rhythm turned viewers into participants, inviting them to shout the German lyrics like a war cry. But beneath its bombast lay tragedy, the idea that unity born from fear always teeters on collapse. The opening's massive scale reflected not just the story's battles, but humanity's endless cycle of hope and destruction. Its blend of orchestra and metal marked a turning point when anime music became a global phenomenon, commanding the same respect as any cinematic score. Fact 34. 1. Piece's We Are stands as a hymn to perseverance, capturing the heartbeat of friendship and adventure. It is impossible to hear it without picturing the Straw Hat crew standing together beneath the endless sky, laughing in defiance of impossibility. The song's simplicity is its strength, a melody that feels like sunrise, words that celebrate dreams rather than outcomes. We are turned the idea of treasure inward, reminding us that the real reward was always the journey, the bonds, the laughter shared between storms. It is not merely an opening, it is the spirit of adventure itself. Fact 35. When Neon Genesis Evangelion premiered with a Cruel Angel's thesis, it redefined what an anime opening could mean. The music was bright, almost cheerful, yet its lyrics whispered existential despair. This contradiction, joy layered over tragedy, mirrored the show's psychological depth, forcing the audience to feel conflict before even understanding it. The song became an emotional cipher, both hopeful and haunting, proof that a single minute of music could encapsulate the complexity of the human condition. Even decades later, its opening bars summon a shiver of recognition, not nostalgia, but remembrance of thought too large to name. Fact 36. In the late 2000s, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood's Again by YUI reminded the world that renewal could sound quiet, even fragile. Its acoustic opening, paired with flashes of gears, hands, and sunrise, told a story of resilience of two brothers seeking redemption under the weight of their mistakes. The lyrics, written like a confession, made listeners reflect on their own cycles of loss and return. It wasn't bombastic or triumphant. It was human. Again became a comfort song for countless viewers, proving that the truest strength lies not in victory, but in the courage to begin once more. Fact 37. The mid-2010 seconds saw Tokyo Ghoul's Unravel reshape emotional expectation for competent anime openings. Sung by TK from Ling Tosite Sigur, the song's trembling vocals and rising anguish broke conventions of structure and tone. Its crescendo felt like a cry that refused to end, an expression of pain too pure for words. The accompanying visuals, a boy dissolving between human and monster, turned vulnerability into art. Unravel wasn't meant to inspire. It was meant to understand, to remind the broken that their pain could still sound beautiful. In its chaos, it found the essence of catharsis itself. Fact 38. Then Came Your Lie in April's Hikaru Nara, a love letter to impermanence. Its melody sparkled like spring sunlight on piano keys, and every frame shimmered with warmth and grief intertwined. The opening didn't just introduce a romance. It promised the heartbreak that defines growing up. The animation mirrored the rhythm of the music, hands touching, petals falling, time slipping softly away. Each rewatch felt like remembering a dream that once made you cry. Hikaru Nara taught its audience that endings can be luminous, that beauty and loss are not opposites but reflections of the same truth. Fact 39. With Demon Slayer's Gurenja, Lisa created a modern anthem of perseverance, fusing traditional Japanese motifs with driving rock energy. The result was both ancient and contemporary, a battle hymn that sounded like history awakening. Its rhythm marched like fire through veins, its lyrics a vow to rise no matter how many times the world burned you down. The opening's color palette, embers, red blossoms, black silhouettes, moved like poetry in motion. Gurenge didn't just accompany an anime. It reignited the culture of anime music itself, uniting generations through one shared heartbeat of determination. Fact 40. Each of these openings changed something subtle, yet profound. Not the industry alone, but the way we feel stories. They transformed the first 60 seconds of an episode into sacred space, teaching us to expect emotion before narrative. These songs became landmarks of memory, echoing across years, connecting strangers through shared melodies, hummed softly in solitude. Whether in the hopeful strum of We Are or the anguished cry of Unravel, the message remains unchanged. Beginnings are never just introductions. They are awakenings, gentle reminders that the next adventure is already waiting inside the first note. Fact 41. Anime openings have always carried an invisible thread of hope woven through their melodies, a promise whispered before the story begins that light will return even after darkness falls. This language of hope is uniquely Japanese in tone, yet universal in feeling, blending melancholy with determination. Songs like Cardcaptor Sakura's Catch You Catch Me and One Piece's We Are remind us that courage can sound playful, that joy itself is a form of defiance. Each lyric, each chord, carries a quiet reassurance. No matter how heavy the world feels, there is always another sunrise waiting. Fact 42. Hope in anime openings rarely shouts. It hums softly beneath the melody, revealed not through triumph but through persistence. The gentle rhythm of Spirited Away's Always With Me or Inuyasha's Change the World speaks of endurance rather than victory, a subtler, truer strength. These songs tell us that hope is not the absence of struggle but the act of walking forward anyway. The harmonies rise not to conquer but to accompany, like a friend walking beside you through the night. And that companionship, that shared journey, is where the heart of every anime opening lives. Fact 43. Lyrics often carry coded messages of optimism hidden within their phrasing. Japanese songwriters tend to use imagery drawn from nature, wind, sky, rain, and light to represent hope as something elemental and cyclical, not fixed. When Naruto's sign speaks of wind carrying dreams, it is not just metaphor but invocation, calling upon the spirit of renewal itself. These recurring images remind listeners that life is not linear but seasonal, that even the coldest winters have their melody of return. Thus, every opening becomes an incantation, a small ritual of faith disguised as a song. Fact 44. The true genius of anime openings lies in how they blend melancholy and optimism into a single emotion, a bittersweet equilibrium that makes us ache and smile at once. This feeling, called setsunai in Japanese, translates loosely to beautiful sadness, and it defines countless beloved songs. Clannad's Megumeru and Your Lie in April's Hikaru Nara are built entirely around this emotional paradox. Their beauty lies in knowing that joy and loss coexist, that hope is not denial of sorrow but its acceptance. It's the sound of someone saying softly, "I know it hurts, but keep going." Fact 45. Even in the most action-packed series, hope hides between the beats, in the rhythm that drives the opening forward. My Hero Academia's Peace Sign by Kenshi Yonezu transforms nervous energy into optimism. Its offbeat rhythm, a mirror of the awkward courage found in adolescence. The melody stumbles and then recovers, like a heartbeat learning to run again after fear. The music doesn't mask imperfection, it celebrates it, teaching that being hopeful isn't about being unafraid. It's about trembling and still choosing to move. That trembling, that imperfect rhythm, is where real heroism is born. Fact 46. Some openings whisper hope, even through tragedy. Attack on Titan. Shinzo wo Sasageo turned sacrifice into transcendence, its choir and drums echoing with devotion rather than despair. Beneath its martial rhythm lies a plea not for victory, but for meaning. It reminds us that hope can exist even in endings, that giving everything can still be beautiful if it keeps the light alive for someone else. Its chorus doesn't shout, "We will survive," but we will give ourselves fully, redefining hope not as survival alone, but as the courage to keep believing when the outcome no longer matters. Fact 47. Hope also lives in transformation, that instant when a quiet verse blooms into a soaring chorus. It's why every great anime opening saves its emotional peak for the halfway point, creating a physiological response of release. Think of Full Metal Alchemist, Brotherhood's period, when the rhythm suddenly lifts and the world seems to expand. This pattern mirrors the human cycle of despair and recovery, mirroring the heartbeat itself: fall, rise, again. The arrangement isn't just structure, it's psychology in motion, using sound to teach the body what the soul already knows. hope always returns. Fact 48. For many listeners, these openings become deeply personal affirmations, songs that outlive the shows they came from. They accompany study sessions, commutes, heartbreaks, and quiet victories, carrying messages that grow with us. Bleach's Rolling Star or Haikyu's Fly High become more than theme songs, they become mantras whispered into daily life. They remind us of our own resilience, replayed in the language of melody rather than words. Long after credits roll, the songs stay with us, looping in memory, transforming ordinary moments into fragments of cinematic courage. In that way, anime openings outlive even their stories. Fact 49. Composers often describe writing these songs as balancing sorrow and encouragement, crafting music that smiles through tears. Composer Masashi Hamauzu once said that a perfect anime opening must walk between heartbreak and sunrise. It must acknowledge reality, but choose light. That's why even the most upbeat openings contain minor chords beneath their cheer, subtle reminders that happiness is fleeting but still worth chasing. This tonal honesty keeps the listener grounded, making every swell of optimism feel earned, authentic, and deeply human hope, not as fantasy, but as a quiet decision renewed every time the song begins. Fact 50. Ultimately, hope in anime openings is less about destiny and more about motion, the belief that movement itself is salvation. Whether it's running, flying, falling, or reaching, the imagery always centers on momentum. To stop would be to surrender, but to keep moving is to hope. That's why so many openings end with a character's back facing the horizon, walking forward into light. It's not triumph, it's continuation. In those moments, the entire philosophy of anime reveals itself that no matter how impossible life becomes, there is always another step, another note, another beginning. Fact 51. The 2000s became a radiant turning point for anime openings, a decade where sound and story fused into identity. This was the age of widescreen television, of crisp digital mastering, of anime as art rather than niche. Songs were no longer just introductions, they were cultural signatures. When Full Metal Alchemist's Ready Steady Go, Bleach's Asterisk, or Naruto's Haruka Kanata played, the air itself seemed to vibrate with possibility. These songs turned adolescence into rhythm, revolution into melody, and longing into motion, teaching a generation that the right opening could transform Saturday evenings into sacred ritual. Fact 52. Lark Tilda and Tilda CL's contribution to this era was nothing short of transformative. With Ready Steady Go and Daybreak's Bell, they fused emotional depth with sonic precision, creating openings that felt like chapters of a larger symphony. Hyde's voice, both urgent and ethereal, carried defiance wrapped in melancholy. Their music proved that an opening could function as both art and adrenaline, emotional storytelling compressed into 3 minutes. The songs captured that rare energy between chaos and clarity, the exact moment when youth becomes self-aware, and in doing so, Lark Tilde and Tilda CL became the beating heart of anime's golden musical age. Fact 53. Asian Kung Fu generation brought authenticity to the forefront. Their sound raw and introspective, an echo of late-night city streets and quiet determination. Their openings for Naruto, Erased, and Full Metal Alchemist turned urban loneliness into poetry. Haruka Kanata, in particular, pulsed with urgency, the sound of young ambition burning toward the unknown. Their lyrics rarely promised success, only motion, a running forward that defined an entire decade of protagonists. Through them, the anime opening evolved from spectacle to sincerity, a reflection of real emotional landscapes that made even ordinary life feel like an unfolding journey. Fact 54. Bleach's openings became the soundtrack of Cool Rebellion, combining slick visuals with songs that felt alive in the bloodstream. Asterisk by Orange Range and Rolling Star by YUI transformed teen introspection into swaggering confidence. They sounded like the early 2000s themselves, raw, restless, endlessly changing. Each opening carried a distinct mood, mirroring Ichigo's growth and the expanding scale of the story. Fans remember these songs not just as introductions but as personal timestamps, reminders of the years when everything felt possible and music could still make ordinary afternoons feel infinite. Fact 55. The Inuyasha openings marked a gentler side of the era, romantic, mysterious, and timeless. Songs like Change the World by V6 and Fukai Mori by Do As Infinity captured both myth and tenderness. Their melodies carried nostalgia before the story had even begun, blending ancient Japanese tonalities with modern instrumentation. These openings weren't designed to excite. They were meant to soothe, to immerse the viewer in longing. They spoke to the quiet magic of the 2000s, a time when anime still felt personal, intimate, and handcrafted, when emotion flowed like ink from the artist's brush. Fact 56. Technology during this era elevated everything. Surround sound mixing allowed openings to breathe, layering background harmonies and deep bass tones that pulled the listener physically into the soundscape. Studios like Sunrise and Bones began editing to the music rather than scoring after animation, synchronizing emotional peaks. Gundam Seed's Invoke or Eureka 7's Days moved with musical structure, each cut deliberate, each transition following melodic logic. This precision made openings feel cinematic, marking the first time many anime sequences matched Hollywood's sense of timing while maintaining their poetic sensitivity, a perfect harmony of art and engineering. Fact 57. This decade also gave birth to the hybrid identity of the anime musician artists who blurred the line between pop star and storyteller. YUI, Nana Mizuki, and World carried dual existences, chart-topping singers and emotional narrators of fictional worlds. World's D-Techno-Life in Bleach and Colors of the Heart in Blood Plus became instant classics, full of restless energy and emotional conviction. Their voices felt lived in, sincere, human. Fans weren't just listening to professionals, they were hearing reflections of their own struggles and ambitions, sung by artists who believed in the power of every imperfect note. Fact 58. Animation in the 2000s began to embrace lyricism like never before. Opening visuals no longer relied solely on montage, they began to tell abstract emotional stories. Eureka 7's sequences flowed like surf waves, Wolf's Rain painted longing through snowfall, and Samurai Champloo turned hip-hop into motion. Directors like Shinichiro Watanabe treated rhythm as narrative, giving openings the pacing of memory rather than exposition. It was a golden decade of experimentation, where every frame carried intention and every song felt like a letter from the creators to the audience, whispering, "This world belongs to you too." Fact 59. What made the 2000s unforgettable was the balance of innocence and sophistication. These openings could be both heartfelt and technically brilliant, grounded and transcendent. A song like Rewrite by Asian Kung Fu Generation could make you want to run while thinking deeply about why you were running. Every melody contained motion, Every lyric contained reflection. The world outside felt unstable, but anime openings offered consistency, that familiar minute and a half, where chaos gave way to clarity. It was music as sanctuary, art as comfort, hope disguised as guitar chords and digital color. Fact 60. Looking back, the 2000s feel like a heartbeat, a single, sustained pulse that carried anime into global consciousness. It was the age when openings became identity, when fans across continents hummed the same choruses without needing translation. The music of that era wasn't just sound, it was connection between creators and viewers, between Japan and the world, between yesterday and forever. These songs still linger, looping endlessly online, replayed not out of habit but reverence. They remind us that every generation deserves its own golden light, and that in the end, nostalgia is just another kind of love. Fact 61. For every explosive anthem that defined the 2000s, there was an equally powerful quiet moment, the kind that arrived like a sigh instead of a shout. Anime openings have always understood that sadness and peace are not opposites but companions, each completing the other. Clanad's Megumeru opens like dawn through curtains, its gentle harmonies carrying nostalgia before a single word is sung. It teaches that emotion doesn't need climax, it only needs honesty. The music's simplicity, its repeating refrain, feels like breathing a rhythm that reminds you that sorrow, too, can cradle you gently to rest. Fact 62. Some of the most moving openings express melancholy through restraint, the quiet balance between what is felt and what is left unsaid. Nana's Rose by Anna Tsuchiya turns longing into melody, her voice raw and trembling yet full of power. The lyrics ache with independence and fragility at once, a portrait of heartbreak that refuses to surrender. Its rock edge never hardens. Instead, it trembles with vulnerability, proving that sadness in anime music doesn't require tears, only truth. It became an anthem for anyone who has ever tried to stand tall while their heart quietly fractured within. Fact 63. Melancholy in anime openings often hides behind brightness, a smiling mask for deeper reflection. Honey and Clover's Dramatic captures this duality perfectly, with its upbeat rhythm paired against lyrics of unspoken yearning. The opening sparkles like sunlight over loneliness, creating beauty from emotional contrast. This technique, known as Yureishi Kanashi, happiness tinged with sadness, mirrors how memory feels when revisited. It's the sound of laughing through nostalgia, of realizing joy has already become the past. The brilliance of such songs is that they make melancholy feel safe, familiar, even comforting in its tenderness. Fact 64. The soundtracks of Your Lie in April and Anohana, the flower we saw that day, elevated sorrow to poetry, each opening carrying the weight of love unfinished. Anohana's Aoi Shiori opens with glimmering notes that sound like the fading of childhood, its chords structured like recollection itself. The visuals of empty spaces and gentle color shifts mirror emotional absence. These openings don't tell us to forget. They invite us to remember softly. Their melancholy isn't punishment, it's preservation, keeping moments alive through music long after time has moved on, allowing grief to transform into gratitude. Fact 65. In Vivi, Fluorite Eye's song, melancholy takes on a futuristic form. The AI protagonist sings of emotions she was never meant to feel, and her openings carry that irony in every note, perfection trembling under longing. The synth layers shimmer with artificial purity, but the melody aches with human imperfection. The dissonance between sound and soul creates haunting beauty, reminding us that sadness is the proof of consciousness, the sound of understanding too much. Vivi's openings whisper a timeless truth that the more one learns to feel, the more one learns the cost of feeling. Fact 66. A special kind of melancholy lives in the openings of slice-of-life anime, where the sadness comes not from tragedy, but from fleeting happiness. March comes in like a lion's answer, by bump of chicken captures this transience, the stillness of routine, the ache of small progress. The music doesn't surge, it drifts. It reflects how everyday life holds quiet sorrow that never resolves but never overwhelms. In its subtle crescendos, you can hear what it means to live gently, to carry pain like a delicate glass, carefully, carefully, so it doesn't shatter but still shines. Fact 67. Melancholy in anime openings also speaks through silence, the pauses between lyrics, the slowing of tempo that mimics thought. Haibane Renmei's opening, Free Bird, uses this art of stillness masterfully, with long instrumental spaces that invite introspection rather than fill emptiness. Its lack of climax is intentional. The listener is left floating in limbo, suspended between yearning and peace. The song becomes not performance but atmosphere, a meditative soundscape where sadness feels sacred. In that silence, the audience becomes part of the song, breathing in sync with its quiet ache, learning the gentleness of acceptance. Fact 68. When melancholic openings are sung in minor keys, they do more than sound sad. They create tension that resolves into understanding. Vivi's ballads, Erased Ray, and Orange's Hikari no Hahen, all use this technique to mimic memory dissonance resolving just before release. It mirrors emotional healing, the feeling of almost forgetting but not quite. These key changes make sorrow cyclical rather than terminal, reminding us that sadness, when expressed, doesn't end, it transforms. It becomes melody, then nostalgia, then warmth, the sound of old pain finding its place quietly in the architecture of the heart. Fact 69. Artists like Aimer built entire careers around this nuanced emotional language. Her openings for Fate divided by Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, and Demon Slayer. Swordsmith Village arc shimmer with restraint, her voice carrying heartbreak like light refracting through crystal. She doesn't cry the sadness, she glows it, translating emotional exhaustion into fragile hope. Each breath she takes feels like a bridge between the divine and the human, her songs like prayers whispered to no one and everyone. Aimer proved that melancholy is not heaviness, it is light remembered, beauty seen through tears, music that teaches us how to exhale. Fact 70. The enduring appeal of melancholy in anime openings lies in its honesty, its refusal to lie about how beautiful sadness can be. These songs cradle the listener, telling us it's okay to miss what's gone, to hope for what may never return. They don't rush healing, they let it drift, measureless and soft. And when the melody fades, what remains isn't pain but stillness, the gentle quiet after rain. That is the gift of anime's most sorrowful openings. They don't end on despair, but on understanding. They remind us that even heartbreak can hum you to sleep. Fact 71. If melancholy gave anime openings their tenderness, then rebellion gave them their pulse, the heartbeat that refuses stillness. From the early 2000s onward, the genre exploded with raw, electric energy that mirrored the turbulence of youth itself. This was the era of distortion, guitars, and fast tempos, of songs that didn't simply introduce shows but demanded attention. Death Note's The World by Nightmare embodied this transformation perfectly. its aggressive rhythm and gothic undertones making morality sound seductive. The energy wasn't chaos for its own sake. It was controlled fire, the sound of questioning everything sacred. Fact 72. The beauty of rebellious openings lies in their precision. They sound unrestrained, yet every note is deliberate. Tokyo Ghoul's Unravel by TK from Lingtosite Sigure captures this contradiction better than almost any other. The song begins with trembling fragility before erupting into anguished defiance, a slow bloom of sound that mirrors transformation and loss of self. The instrumentation crashes like waves while the voice shatters like glass, and yet the chaos feels orchestral. In its dissonance, it offers catharsis, not rebellion against the world, but rebellion against silence, against numbness, against the fear of truly feeling alive. Fact 73. Some openings embody rebellion through rhythm alone, using tempo as emotion. Attack on Titan's Feuerroter Pale und Bogen strikes like a march to glory that doubles as an elegy for freedom. The pace is relentless, each drumbeat a declaration of willpower. Its choral accents echo unity, but its minor keys betray doubt, the rebellion of hope that knows its own cost. Listeners didn't just hear the music, they felt it seize the chest, reminding them that true freedom, in any form, is always born of resistance. It is rebellion not against authority, but against surrender itself. Fact 74. Punk and alternative rock reshaped anime openings into personal manifestos. Bands like Flow and Uverworld turned intensity into affirmation, crafting songs that sounded like letters written by restless hearts. Go and Colors of the Heart became more than themes, they were declarations of identity. Their riffs carried urgency, their lyrics vulnerability disguised as confidence. These songs told a generation that rebellion didn't mean destruction, it meant authenticity. To raise your voice, to refuse invisibility, to dream loudly, that was rebellion enough. In those opening seconds, every listener felt their own heartbeat sync with defiance. Fact 75. Some openings turned rebellion inward, turning pain into propulsion. Parasite. The Maxims' Let Me Hear by Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas fused electronic screams with existential questioning. The sound is manic, chaotic, almost absurd, yet beneath the noise lies deep empathy for alienation. The lyrics speak not of rage but of confusion, a desperate need to find meaning. It's rebellion against apathy, a musical embodiment of being alive in a world that feels mechanical. The opening taught that rebellion isn't always loud against others. Sometimes it's the quiet refusal to stop searching for yourself. Fact 76. Visual rebellion often mirrors musical rebellion. The camera angles, color schemes, and motion itself become acts of defiance. Kill la Kill's Ambiguous uses fast cuts, explosive hues, and dynamic typography that pulse with musical rhythm. Its chaos is deliberate, reflecting not confusion, but freedom. The song and animation dance in synchrony, celebrating imperfection as empowerment. Every frame feels like a revolution in miniature, a refusal to obey structure. The message, hidden beneath all the noise and color, is simple but profound. Being unashamedly yourself, even when the world finds you strange, is the purest rebellion of all. Fact 77. Gurren Lagann's Sorairo Days remains one of the purest expressions of this energetic defiance. Sung by Shoko Nakagawa, it radiates conviction, optimism, and unfiltered passion. Its momentum builds like the act of breaking through walls, literal and metaphorical, turning its chorus into the sound of transcendence. When the song shouts, "Don't believe in yourself, Believe in me who believes in you. It transforms rebellion into faith shared between souls. The opening doesn't reject the world, it demands the right to create a better one, showing that courage itself is an act of rebellion against despair. Fact 78. Rebellion in anime openings is also sonic experimentation, the willingness to destroy musical boundaries. FLCL's entire soundtrack by The Pillows blurred the line between opening, insert, and ending, turning punk into poetry. The guitars didn't accompany the scenes, they were the scenes. The raw sound of Ride on Shooting Star captured adolescence's glorious confusion, where love, anger, and humor coexist without hierarchy. It was anti-formula, anti-polish, anti-perfection, and in that messiness lay beauty, proof that rebellion isn't chaos for its own sake, but creation unafraid to look like destruction while becoming something new. Fact 79. Later openings like Chainsaw Man's Kickback continued that experimental tradition, mixing irreverence with homage. Kenshi Yonezu's lyrics bounce between absurdity and sincerity, matching the show's chaotic tone. The animation quotes famous films, breaking every tonal rule: horror beside humor, brutality beside beauty. Its energy feels uncontainable, bursting from every frame like overpressured steam. The rebellion here is metatextual, its art rebelling against its own tropes, laughing at the seriousness of itself. And somehow, through that laughter, it still manages to feel deeply human, celebrating imperfection as both truth and liberation. Fact 80. In the end, the energy of rebellion in anime openings isn't about anger, it's about vitality, the refusal to go numb. These songs pulse with the spirit of motion, of youth too alive to sit still. They remind us that defiance is an act of love, love for freedom, love for expression, love for the fragile miracle of being alive. Whether screamed through distorted microphones or whispered beneath heavy beats, rebellion in anime openings is not destruction. It is rebirth, the sound of the world beginning again, louder, braver, and more unapologetically alive than before. Fact 81. Anime openings are not just about music, they are visual poetry, where every color, shape, and gesture carries layered meaning. The sky is never just a sky. It is aspiration, distance, or memory. When a character runs toward the horizon, it is not only movement but transformation, the act of moving from uncertainty into purpose. The recurring sunrise across countless openings from One Piece to Naruto symbolizes rebirth, the daily miracle of continuation. These visual motifs speak directly to the subconscious, teaching us to understand emotion through rhythm and light rather than words. Fact 82. Birds are among the most recurring symbols in anime openings, often representing both freedom and fragility. From the doves of Full Metal Alchemist to the soaring bluebird of Naruto Shippuden, their wings reflect longing, the wish to escape limitation while still fearing the cost of flight. The animation often mirrors this duality, a moment of lift followed by a pause, a downward drift, a slow return to the sky. It is as if flight in anime openings is not victory but a meditation, the eternal dance between the desire for freedom and the comfort of belonging. Fact 83. Hands reaching, trembling, intertwining appear in nearly every major opening, often symbolizing connection or its absence. In Your Lie in April, hands stretch across piano keys. In A Silent Voice, they hover but do not touch. These small gestures tell entire emotional stories in seconds, expressing what words never could. A reaching hand represents hope, a withdrawn one, regret. Together, they form a visual language about human vulnerability. To reach is to risk, to grasp is to love, and to miss is to remember. Through hands, openings quietly teach the meaning of closeness and distance. Fact 84. Another recurring image is water, reflective, fluid, eternal. Water in openings symbolizes memory, acting as both mirror and passage. In Nagi no Asukara, rippling seas reflect shifting identities, while in Bleach's intros, water often signals cleansing, rebirth through struggle. Its shimmering surface blurs the line between past and present, above and below. When characters look into it, they are gazing at themselves across time. Water, like memory, never stills. It carries everything that has ever touched it. To show water is to remind the viewer that emotion, too, moves constantly, never gone, only transformed. Fact 85. The use of falling petals, especially cherry blossoms, carries cultural resonance that transcends beauty. In Japanese tradition, blossoms symbolize life's impermanence, brief, vivid, and destined to fade. Anime openings use them to mark transition, youth, and the ache of passing time. When petals drift across screens in Your Name or Clannad, it's not simply decoration but philosophy. They remind us that beauty is not meant to last, that the poignancy of a moment lies in its fleetingness. This gentle awareness of transience creates emotional stillness, sadness, softened by acceptance, impermanence turned into grace. Fact 86. Broken glass, often flashing in slow motion, appears as a symbol of awakening, the shattering of illusions, the violent clarity of realization. Death Note and Evangelion use it to mark transformation, the breaking of the self that precedes rebirth. Each fragment reflects a piece of identity, sharp yet luminous. It is a visual metaphor for growth, painful, disruptive, but necessary. When glass breaks in an opening, it means the character, and by extension, the viewer can no longer return to ignorance. The world is fractured, but through those fractures, light enters more deeply. Fact 87. Light itself is one of anime's most sacred symbols, often portrayed as threads, rays, or halos cutting across darkness. It represents not only hope, but awareness, a soul's awakening to meaning. The openings of Fate, divided by Zero and Demon Slayer, use this imagery with reverence, painting characters in beams of illumination that separate them from shadow, yet bind them to it. The light doesn't banish darkness. It coexists with it, defining its beauty. The message, wordless yet powerful, is universal. Understanding does not erase pain. It simply allows you to see within it and keep walking. Fact 88. Mirrors and reflections in openings often signify self-confrontation, the duality between identity and ideal. Black Clover's Guess Who Is Back shows mirrored versions of the protagonist, one hesitant, one resolved. These reflective compositions invite introspection, asking both character and audience, who are you when no one watches? The mirrored self is the silent question beneath many openings. Are we becoming our truest selves, or drifting from them? It's not accusation, but empathy. By showing reflection, anime openings remind us that growth isn't about changing into someone else, but recognizing what has always waited inside. Fact 89. Chains, ribbons, and strings often tie the visual narrative together, delicate threads symbolizing fate, promise, or emotional entanglement. In Your Name, the red string embodies connection across time. In Madoka Magica, ribbons symbolize both innocence and burden. These motifs are rarely just aesthetic, they're visual representations of destiny's pull, gentle yet unbreakable. They tell us that life's most profound connections can neither be forced nor escaped. When these strings unravel or tighten in time with a melody, they carry meaning deeper than words, a visual heartbeat linking souls across story and silence alike. Fact 90. Finally, the most powerful symbolism in anime openings is often cyclical, the repetition of movement, of imagery, of color. A scene shown twice, once at the beginning and once at the end, carries the message that all journeys are circles. Steins, Gate, Attack on Titan, and Erased use this repetition to evoke inevitability, but also grace. The idea that even when stories end, emotions continue looping softly forever. In the visual poetry of openings, nothing truly disappears. It transforms, returns, and whispers again. The opening itself becomes a circle, a dream you can re-enter endlessly, every night. Fact 91. From the earliest days of anime, female singers have been the soul of its soundscapes, their voices carrying both fragility and strength in ways words alone could never express. These voices became lullabies for generations, from Mitsuko Hori's hopeful melodies in Candy Candy to Megumi Hayashibara's vibrant performances in Neon Genesis Evangelion and Slayers. They weren't merely vocalists, they were emotional translators. In a medium built on fantasy, their voices grounded everything in humanity, turning even the most supernatural worlds into something intimate. Through them, anime learned to speak softly, and softness became its greatest power. Fact 92. As the industry matured, female vocalists began to reshape the entire aesthetic of openings, infusing elegance into energy and turning vulnerability into strength. Maya Sakamoto's Platinum from Cardcaptor Sakura exemplified this grace, a song that sounded like a dream balancing on the edge of waking. Her delivery was light but deliberate, each word floating like morning sunlight. It wasn't heroic, yet it carried courage. Not loud, yet endlessly resonant. Sakamoto's career became a blueprint for voice actresses who wished to tell stories not only through speech, but through song, blurring the boundaries between acting and feeling. Fact 93. When Yoko Takahashi's A Cruel Angel's thesis exploded into cultural immortality, it was her tone, confident yet yearning, that transformed abstract philosophy into emotion. Listeners might not have understood every lyric, yet her voice made them feel as though they did. Her performance proved that clarity isn't required for connection. Sincerity is. Her vocals were both command and comfort, soaring above complexity to reach the listener's core. In her song, countless fans found something universal, the echo of determination born from confusion, the strength to face meaninglessness with grace, and the melody of enduring through paradox. Fact 94. In the 2000s, Lisa emerged as a new kind of force, not delicate nor detached, but fiercely alive. Her voice in Sword Art Online's Crossing Field and Demon Slayer's Gurenge turned struggle into exhalation. She sang as though her breath itself carried battle scars, yet within that rawness lived triumph. Every high note felt like a victory wrestled from exhaustion. Through her, the anime opening found its modern heroism, not perfect, but passionate. Lissa taught that to sing beautifully was not to sound flawless, but to sound real, to let power and pain coexist without apology. Fact 95. Air Aoi followed that lineage with crystalline control and ethereal reach, her music floating between heaven and heartbreak. Songs like Ignite and Innocence wrapped strength and serenity, her tone shimmering like glass on the edge of breaking. Her artistry lies in balance between restraint and release, discipline and emotion. Listening to her feels like standing in wind, both comforted and challenged. Aoi's openings captured the paradox of modern resilience, appearing unshakable while holding deep tenderness within. She gave voice to those who fight quietly, showing that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply sings. Fact 96. Aimer's voice is twilight, not day, not night, but the soft boundary between. Her openings, from fate divided by stay night, unlimited blade works, to demon slayers, Zankyu Sanka, shimmer with delicate intensity. Her breathy delivery turns every lyric into reverie, and her tone feels touched by starlight. Aimer doesn't chase perfection. She lets imperfection glow. Her songs linger like echoes in empty rooms, both lonely and luminous. Through her, anime openings learned to whisper. Each note she sings seems to dissolve into air, reminding the listener that even fading things can illuminate that softness, when honest, becomes eternal. Fact 97. Mika Nakashima's haunting performance of Find the Way from Mobile Suit Gundam Seed gave the mecha genre something it had rarely known: vulnerability. Her smoky, soulful tone replaced bombast with introspection, turning the opening into quiet reflection on humanity's cycles of conflict. It was less war song and more prayer. Nakashima's artistry lay in restraint. She didn't command the listener, she invited them to pause. That stillness became its own kind of power. Through her, anime music proved that serenity could cut deeper than sound, that still voices can echo loudest when the world finally grows still. Fact 98. Even idol-style performers found transcendence within their pop polish. Clarice, the anonymous duo behind Madoka Magica's Connect, transformed innocence into transcendence. Their harmonies shimmer with youthful uncertainty, yet their melodies ache with knowing. The anonymity of their image silhouettes instead of faces made their voices universal, belonging to everyone and no one. Their songs evoke the fragile beauty of becoming, that bittersweet stage between childhood and adulthood. Through their hidden presence, Clarius reminded listeners that sometimes the truest art is faceless, and the most powerful message is the one whispered from behind the curtain. Fact 99. Newer artists like Ado have continued to redefine what a female anime vocalist can represent. Her explosive performance as Uta in One Piece film, Red fuses theatricality with rebellion, her voice bending genres effortlessly. She growls, whispers, and belts with equal control, embodying emotion rather than merely expressing it. Her style rejects limitation, proving that femininity in music is not a single sound but a universe of possibility. Ado stands as a culmination of decades of evolution, where vulnerability and ferocity coexist, where the voice itself becomes theater, rebellion, and catharsis all at once. Fact 100. The collective legacy of female vocalists in anime openings is one of emotional authorship. They gave sound to experiences that words alone could not convey. Their voices have guided stories, comforted hearts, and defined generations. From Yoko Takahashi's divine confidence to Lisa's burning spirit, each singer contributed a thread to an endless song. These women didn't just perform, they embodied emotion itself. Their echoes remain woven into every chord that follows, their softness still shaping strength. And even when the music fades, their resonance lingers, reminding us that every story begins and ends with a human voice. Fact 101. Behind the emotional pull of anime openings lies something measurable: the science of sound and memory working together to trigger feeling. Psychologists call it anticipatory emotion, the body's way of preparing for joy or catharsis. The rising chords, the rhythm that builds without resolution, the swell just before the chorus, all of it primes the nervous system to expect release. Openings like Full Metal Alchemist's Again or Naruto's Silhouette master this formula perfectly. They don't simply entertain, they alter chemistry, releasing dopamine in sync with imagery, making every episode's beginning feel like coming home. Fact 102. Melody shapes emotion through contour. The way notes rise and fall mirrors human speech patterns. Japanese composers, especially, design openings with this awareness, using stepwise motion to mimic the rhythm of spoken feeling. Songs like Blue Bird and Kimi no Shiranai Monogatari use this natural phrasing, making the listener's heartbeat follow the melody. The music feels like someone speaking directly to you, though no words are exchanged. This connection, biological, not just artistic, is why anime openings feel so personal. They are, in a way, conversations disguised as songs, language translated into vibration and memory. Fact 103. Tempo plays another vital role in shaping emotion. Faster tempos, especially between 120–140 beats per minute, align closely with the rhythm of a quickened heartbeat. That's why songs like Guren no Yumiya feel energizing. They literally synchronize with the body's physiological excitement. Conversely, slower tempos, like in Fukai Mori, encourage relaxation and nostalgia. Anime openings use this natural resonance instinctively, guiding emotion before the viewer even recognizes it. It's not manipulation. It's empathy written in sound. The composer's tempo becomes the listener's pulse, merging body and story into one seamless, breathing organism. Fact 104. Chord progressions in anime openings often follow a pattern known as the hope loop, a sequence of ascending harmonies that create a sense of unresolved optimism. The most common version, IVVIV, appears in countless iconic songs, from We Are to Silhouette. Each return to the tonic feels incomplete, leaving emotional space that the next episode will fill. This structure mirrors narrative tension, turning music into serialized storytelling. The loop never fully resolves because the journey hasn't ended. Every week, when the theme plays again, our brains remember that unfinished feeling, the sound of hope continuing. Fact 105. Instrumentation too shapes emotional response. String sections create warmth and nostalgia. Electric guitars ignite adrenaline. Piano chords soften reflection. Japanese arrangers often layer these intentionally, crafting emotional complexity through orchestration. In Your Lie, in April's Hikaru Nara, for example, violins shimmer beneath pop percussion, balancing brightness with ache. The human ear, attuned to frequency blending, perceives this as bittersweet. It's why even happy openings carry traces of sadness. The tonal layering allows multiple feelings at once. It's not indecision, it's realism. The music reminds us that joy and melancholy often live in the same breath. Fact 106. Vocals, meanwhile, act as emotional anchors. The slight tremor in a singer's voice activates empathy, as if the listener's own body mirrors the emotion being sung. This phenomenon, called affective resonance, explains why singers like Aimer or TK move listeners so deeply their vulnerability vibrates physically within us. Anime openings often amplify this by isolating vocals at crucial moments, stripping away instruments to create intimacy. When the voice returns, layered and strong, it feels like recovery. The sound mirrors healing itself, breaking, then rebuilding. It's not just music, it's a rehearsal for emotional endurance. Fact 107. Visual synchronization enhances this emotional science. When animation cuts a line with rhythmic accents, the viewer's brain releases bursts of serotonin, pleasure tied to pattern recognition. That's why the spinning camera of Attack on Titan or the beat-perfect timing of K-On! Feels so satisfying. The eye and ear learn to dance together, and the brain rewards the harmony. It's a neurological loop of joy, predictability met with surprise. Every beat-matched frame reinforces memory, which is why even years later, we remember not only how a scene looked, but how it felt to see and hear it together. Fact 108. Lyrics work on a separate but parallel level through semantic priming. Words like mirai, future, yume, dream, and hikari, light, appear in hundreds of openings because their repetition builds emotional familiarity. These words trigger positive association regardless of literal meaning, conditioning audiences toward optimism. It's a musical psychology rooted in hope. Even if you don't understand Japanese, your brain recognizes the tone, vowel flow, and emotional delivery. Meaning transcends translation. The science proves what the heart already knows, that sincerity in sound communicates more deeply than any language can quantify. Fact 109. Another reason openings feel emotionally powerful lies in nostalgia's biology. When a familiar melody replays, the hippocampus activates the same brain region that processes personal memory. Hearing Chala Head Chala, or again decades later, triggers sensory recall. The smell of childhood rooms, the glow of CRT screens, the texture of school uniforms. These are not imagined memories, but genuine neurological reactions. The music reawakens identity, linking who we were with who we are. That's why these songs never truly age. They exist outside time, living wherever memory chooses to hum along. Fact 110. Ultimately, the emotional science behind anime openings reveals a profound truth that the connection between art and feeling isn't mysterious at all. It's human design. Rhythm, melody, and imagery cooperate to synchronize emotion across people, cultures, and years. The opening theme is, at its core, a shared heartbeat, a gentle alignment of minds through sound and color. Science may explain the mechanics, but not the magic. That part belongs to the listener, because even if our brains know what's happening, our hearts still rise every time when the chorus begins and the story unfolds once more. Fact 111. Anime openings may begin as creative works, but they rarely remain confined to their shows. They grow, travel, and become cultural landmarks through the people who love them. Fan culture has transformed openings into living traditions, sung at conventions, recreated in videos, and shared across continents. When fans hum "We Are" or "Bluebird," they aren't simply recalling lyrics, they're invoking memory. Each song becomes a meeting place between strangers, an invisible language built from emotion. In that harmony, fandom transcends geography, a reminder that music, once shared, belongs not to one story, but to everyone. Fact 112. Karaoke bars across Japan were the first cathedrals of anime music. By the 1,990 seconds, openings like Butterfly and Chala Head Chala filled rooms with laughter and nostalgia. These songs became communal rituals, a way for people to relive their favorite stories through sound. The karaoke experience turns the listener into the performer, closing the gap between audience and art. The echo of friends singing off-key to anime anthems is not imperfection, it's participation. Every voice adds to the legacy, proving that these songs live longest, not in studios or charts, but in shared human breath and joy. Fact 113. With the rise of the internet, anime openings became global. Fans began posting subtitled versions on early forums and YouTube, spreading music beyond borders. The Naruto and Bleach openings became universal anthems, their choruses sung phonetically by people who didn't speak Japanese but understood emotion fluently. This grassroots sharing built a new kind of cultural exchange, one that bypassed language entirely. For many, these songs were their first experience of another culture's art. Long before streaming services globalized anime, its music had already done the work, carrying connection faster than translation ever could. Fact 114. Fan covers and remixes turned appreciation into artistry. From acoustic renditions on YouTube to full orchestral rearrangements, audiences began to reinterpret openings as living compositions rather than static works. Unravel alone inspired thousands of versions, each performance a personal reflection on transformation and emotion. These reinterpretations demonstrate the elasticity of anime music, its ability to adapt, evolve, and absorb the identities of its listeners. Every cover is both tribute and reinvention, proof that music's power lies not in ownership but in participation, the endless cycle of being inspired, creating, and inspiring again. Fact 115. Anime conventions around the world became sanctuaries for these collective memories. Opening themes echo through hallways, uniting strangers with the first note of recognition. When Attack on Titan's Gurren no Yumiya begins, entire crowds instinctively chant, their voices shaking walls. This shared ecstasy isn't mere fandom, it's communion. The boundaries between performer and audience blur until all that exists is rhythm. These gatherings transform ephemeral songs into living, breathing events. In that moment, everyone remembers what it felt like to hear the opening for the first time, and they relive it together, louder than nostalgia itself. Fact 116. Fan animation and AMV's anime music videos represent another powerful evolution of fandom's role. Early creators, using primitive editing tools, matched anime footage to songs from other shows, movies, and genres. Over time, these projects became intricate works of love, crafting new stories entirely from existing fragments. Many of today's professional editors and animators began by syncing anime openings to new tracks in their bedrooms. In this way, fandom became apprenticeship. The culture of remix blurred lines between creator and admirer, turning audience passion into the seedbed of the next generation of artists. Fact 117. Online discussions around openings fostered a unique kind of criticism analysis born from affection. Fans learned to dissect symbolism, color palettes, tempo shifts, and lyrics, teaching one another the language of visual storytelling. Platforms like Reddit, MyAnimeList, and early forums became global classrooms. Through this collaborative education, appreciation evolved into literacy. The anime opening was no longer mere entertainment. It became an entry point to understanding animation as an art form. Each rewatch brought new discoveries, and through shared analysis, fans helped elevate the medium's perception worldwide, proving that love, too, can be scholarship. Fact 118. Cosplay performances often revolve around iconic openings, turning convention stages into live celebrations of music. Dancers recreate choreographed scenes, lip syncers embody beloved singers, and entire groups replicate sequences shot for shot. The act of physical embodiment transforms fandom into kinesthetic experience, music felt through movement. For performers, it's not imitation but homage, a way of saying thank you with motion instead of words. For the audience, it's recognition blooming in real time. Nostalgia manifests in the rhythm of shared applause. Every performance reaffirms the same truth. Art lives longest when it is reborn through joy. Fact 119. The global reach of anime openings also shaped pop music itself. Artists from outside Japan, inspired by their intensity and sincerity, began incorporating anime-style melodies and chord progressions into their work. From K-pop to Western indie rock, the influence became undeniable. Songs by artists like Porter Robinson, Carly Rae Jepsen, and Ado reveal this inheritance, a generation raised not on genre boundaries, but emotional storytelling. The once niche sound of anime music now echoes through international charts, proving that what began as local art became universal emotion, a shared musical language of feeling without borders. Fact 120. Ultimately, the legacy of anime openings belongs to the people who continue to sing them. Long after their series end, they survive through community, through one fan teaching another the words, through late-night sing-alongs, through playlists that travel between decades. They exist wherever someone presses play and smiles in recognition. Fandom, in its purest form, is preservation through love. The openings we hum in solitude are the same ones echoed by millions, threading invisible unity across the world. They remind us that even fleeting art can last forever if someone, somewhere, still remembers the tune. Fact 121. Anime openings have long transcended national boundaries, becoming ambassadors of emotion rather than language. Their melodies carry meaning even when the words are foreign, their visuals universal enough to speak to anyone who has ever felt hope, loss, or wonder. The first global wave began in the late 1980 seconds, when Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon aired beyond Japan, and children everywhere began humming Japanese refrains they didn't understand but instinctively felt. In that moment, anime music stopped being regional. It became emotional. Esperanto, a shared tongue spoken in the rhythm of dreams. Fact 122. Localization didn't stop this connection. It often deepened it. English language versions of openings, such as Pokemon's Gotta Catch 'Em All or Digimon's Butterfly, reimagined the songs without erasing their heart. These adaptations introduced countless Western audiences to anime's energy, paving the way for acceptance of foreign art on global screens. For many, these songs became time capsules, reminders of after-school hours and CRT glow. Even though translation altered lyrics, the spirit endured. The music's pulse was untranslatable but unmistakable, a rhythm of adventure, an invitation to believe in worlds far larger than our own. Fact 123. European broadcasts of anime in the 1990 seconds fostered another cultural bridge. In France, Italy, and Spain, localized versions of openings became national hits, blending Japanese melody with European pop sensibilities. The Saint Seiya and Dragon Ball themes were sung in French at festivals and on radio, their voices uniting generations. Even as lyrics changed, the emotion remained constant. These reinterpretations proved that art could travel by adaptation, not imitation, that each translation was a mirror reflecting shared human feeling. The borders between their music and ours dissolved, replaced by a single, shared nostalgia for wonder. Fact 124. In Latin America, anime openings became cultural phenomena, often sung in Spanish with as much devotion as their Japanese originals. The voice of Ricardo Silva performing Chala Head Chala became legendary, turning an anime song into a regional anthem. These adaptations didn't mimic, they transformed, infusing local passion and warmth. Fans embraced them as their own, carrying them through generations. Even today, in conventions from Mexico City to Buenos Aires, thousands still sing those lyrics in unison, proving that translation doesn't dilute emotion, it multiplies it, transforming a story from one nation into a shared inheritance. Fact 125. Anime openings also influenced international music production, shaping sounds far beyond Japan. Western producers studied their emotional intensity, the way melody could move from whisper to explosion, and began adopting those dynamics. Artists like Porter Robinson and Madeon openly cite anime as foundational influence, crafting tracks that evoke the same cinematic catharsis. What began as niche fascination grew into a full musical aesthetic, anime-inspired pop, built around the idea that sincerity need not fear grandeur. These songs carry anime's DNA, not imitation but evolution, a continuation of emotional storytelling through modern sound. Fact 126. Bilingual openings became a natural result of this global exchange. Series like Carol and Tuesday and Tower of God wove Japanese and English lyrics seamlessly, symbolizing a world where art no longer needs borders to breathe. These songs speak to a new generation fluent in both cultures, digital natives who grew up with anime as their common mythology. The data's blending of tongues isn't novelty, it's truth. The global audience no longer listens as outsiders but as participants, their identities mirrored in lyrics that flow between languages, like rivers meeting under starlight, distinct yet indivisible. Fact 127. The cross-border appeal of anime openings also reshaped fandom events. International concerts like Anisong World Matsuri brought Japanese artists to stages in Los Angeles, Singapore, and Paris, where audiences sang along word for word. The sound of thousands of non-Japanese voices uniting in perfect rhythm carried a kind of quiet awe. For both performer and listener, it was proof that music had achieved what diplomacy never could: pure emotional understanding. In those crowds, nationality dissolved into harmony, and anime openings fulfilled their truest purpose, connecting hearts across oceans through the untranslatable language of melody. Fact 128. Streaming platforms accelerated this cultural fusion. For the first time, anime openings were available instantly, officially, and globally, no longer hidden in imports or fan recordings. Artists like Lisa, Aimer, and Eve found fans from Sao Paulo to Stockholm overnight. Algorithms could now recommend Japanese songs to those who'd never seen an anime, turning them into gateways to new worlds. Music became the ambassador, anime the language it taught. What once required subcultures and secrecy now thrives in open air, proving that connection, once set to melody, cannot be contained, only sung louder. Fact 129. Even outside fandom, anime openings influenced advertising, cinema, and video games across the world. Western film trailers adopted the same emotional crescendo structure pioneered by anime themes: a slow build, a visual drop, then the cathartic chorus. Video games from Genshin Impact to League of Legends now commission anime-style openings, complete with symbolic visuals and heartfelt vocals. What was once niche style became universal language. It's no longer Japan borrowing from the West. It's the world learning from Japan how to make emotion cinematic, how to turn longing itself into spectacle and song. Fact 130. At their core, anime openings crossing borders reveal a profound truth that stories told with sincerity need no translation. A melody can leap oceans, a lyric can touch hearts without comprehension, and a moment of beauty can unite strangers who have never met. What began as simple intros for Saturday broadcasts evolved into cultural constellations, connecting millions across the planet through shared emotion. The world sings now in many languages, but the feeling is one: wonder, hope, nostalgia. The anime opening has become humanity's chorus, infinite voices, infinite echoes, all humming the same dream. Fact 131. The modern era of anime openings stands as a culmination of decades of artistry, technology, and emotion. Each sequence now a miniature film, complete with symbolism, editing, and narrative weight. Demon Slayer's Gurenge by Lisa embodies this evolution, a fusion of cinematic animation, mythic imagery, and thunderous rhythm. Every frame bursts with life. Every note strikes with conviction. It represents the moment anime openings became full storytelling experiences, no longer introductions but emotional prologues. This perfection of form, where sight and sound merge seamlessly, marks the true arrival of anime openings as global art. Fact 132. Attack on Titans: The Rumbling by Sim continued the legacy of musical evolution, blending metalcore aggression with orchestral grandeur. Its opening visuals of collapsing worlds, an unending march of titans, mirrored humanity's confrontation with consequence. The chorus, a cry of rage and despair, encapsulated the complexity of the series itself. Revolution and regret intertwined. Modern openings like this no longer simply energize, they challenge. They make the listener confront their own dualities. In its chaos, the rumbling isn't just sound, it's confrontation turned to melody, rebellion turned to revelation, destruction turned to song. Fact 133. Jujutsu Kaisen's openings, both Kaikai Kitan by Eve and Vivid Vice by Huya Extended, represent the modern balance between swagger and soul. The animation dances to the rhythm of city lights, framed with film-like motion and graffiti-style compositions. The music feels urban yet ethereal, blending jazz scales and rock distortion. These songs mirror the contradictions of modern youth, confident yet uncertain, fearless yet lonely. The visuals echo that same pulse: stillness amidst motion, serenity amid chaos. The result is not just hype but poetry, an urban hymn to the resilience and confusion of being alive. Fact 134. Spy X, Family's Mixed Nuts by Official Hige Dandism is an example of how humor, sophistication, and emotional warmth can coexist within one opening. Its jazz-infused melody and playful rhythm echo the show's blend of espionage and family tenderness. The animation, full of retro colors and quick cuts, mirrors the aesthetic of classic film openings, transforming nostalgia into freshness. It's charming yet deeply human, reminding us that even in stories about spies and secrets, the heart of the narrative lies in laughter and love. The song proves that sincerity, when wrapped in wit, can still make us dream. Fact 135. Chainsaw Man's opening Kickback by Kenshi Yonezu redefined what an anime opening could be, not only musically, but culturally. Its surreal references, chaotic energy, and unpredictable tempo reflected the unpredictable tone of the series itself. The sequence spliced homages to film history and absurd humor with genuine emotional tension. This postmodern collage captured the internet generation's fragmented consciousness, turning disarray into coherence. It's not an opening to watch once, but to decode repeatedly. Kickback proved that anime could be as conceptually daring as any avant-garde cinema, all while staying irresistibly entertaining. Fact 136. Oshi no Ko's Idol by Yoasobi became a modern phenomenon, breaking streaming records and dominating charts worldwide. Its electronic pop precision and storytelling lyrics turned a critique of fame into a hypnotic anthem. The opening's glittering visuals, layered with hidden metaphors about identity and illusion, demand rewatching. It blurs the line between glamour and emptiness, adoration and isolation. Each frame dazzles while whispering caution, reminding viewers that beauty and pain often dance together in the spotlight. Idol is not merely catchy, it's meta-commentary turned melody, an opening that sparkles even as it questions why we crave shine. Fact 137. Modern masterpieces also embrace quiet minimalism. Made in Abyss's Deep in Abyss uses simplicity as strength, a haunting melody paired with serene visuals of descent and discovery. The song's structure reflects the story's theme, curiosity edged with danger, wonder touched by grief. There's restraint in its rhythm, as if the music itself is afraid to disturb the silence. The vocals drift like whispers through an ancient cavern. It's a reminder that even amid the bombast of modern production, stillness retains its power, that silence, paired with sincerity, can echo louder than any orchestral crescendo ever could. Fact 138. In Mob Psycho 199 by Mob Choir, mathematical absurdity becomes art. The repetition of numbers, layered harmonies, and chaotic visuals form a hypnotic cycle of identity and self-control. The opening's power lies in its precision chaos, designed down to the millisecond. Every scream, every flash, is measured. It mirrors the protagonist's internal struggle, control through chaos, calm through storm. The song's structured mania reflects modern life's contradictions, overstimulation disguised as clarity. In this sense, 99 stands as an anthem for the overstimulated generation, turning confusion itself into the rhythm of endurance. Fact 139. New technologies have turned modern openings into interactive experiences. Studios now use digital compositing, particle simulations, and AI-assisted rendering to synchronize visuals with music beyond what hand-drawn timing once allowed. The result is hyperfluid storytelling like in Vivi, Fluoride Eye's song, where sound frequencies ripple through the air as animation itself. The viewer doesn't watch, they feel the vibration. These technical miracles don't replace heart, they amplify it, giving artists the power to shape emotion with unprecedented precision. The opening becomes an ecosystem, where technology and tenderness coexist in perfect, glowing balance. Fact 140. Modern anime openings reflect the maturity of an art form that began as simplicity and evolved into symphony. They no longer just say, "Welcome to this world." They are the world condensed. Each second is a collaboration between composer, animator, and audience. The emotional blueprint is clear: wonder, tension, joy, reflection. Yet, no matter how advanced the visuals or how global the fame, the heart remains the same, that first feeling when the music begins and the story breathes. Every modern masterpiece, however complex, is still an echo of that first, pure dream of flight. Fact 141. Every anime opening, no matter how new or old, carries an unspoken truth that beginnings are infinite. Long after an episode ends, the opening remains suspended in memory, always ready to start again. It is the moment before the moment, the inhale before the story breathes. This is why, even years later, pressing play still feels sacred. The screen fades to color, the first note rises, and something deep within recognizes it, the sound of return. In a world obsessed with endings, the anime opening reminds us that some things are meant to begin forever. Fact 142. Openings are not just introductions, they're rituals. They train the heart to anticipate wonder, to expect magic in the ordinary. Watching them weekly becomes a kind of meditation. The same melody, the same images, and yet they always feel new. This repetition is not monotony, it's renewal. Like season cycling, it gives life rhythm and shape. Each rewatch says, we are still here, still feeling, still capable of awe. The anime opening thus becomes a heartbeat shared across time, beating in sync with memory, reminding us that hope, like music, never truly concludes. Fact 143. Every era of anime has its anthem, but all of them share the same DNA melody as emotion, motion as memory. Whether it's the bright optimism of We Are or the aching introspection of Unravel, each song carries the same essence, the promise that stories can heal. The details change, new artists, new technology, new generations, yet the intention remains unchanged. Openings endure because they speak in the oldest human language, rhythm, the beat of feet running, hearts racing, dreams unfolding, all transformed into the poetry of sound and color intertwined. Fact 144. Even as anime expands into virtual realms and digital platforms, the spirit of its openings continues to evolve with it. Artificial intelligence may compose melodies, and 3D engines may craft fluid movement, but what gives meaning remains the same, the emotional truth. An algorithm can simulate music, but only a human can feel it, and that's what every opening ultimately celebrates: humanity's endless desire to express itself through beauty. As long as someone still sings, draws, or dreams, there will always be another opening waiting to be born, another story rising with the dawn. Fact 145. Fans often describe the first notes of an opening as coming home. It's the peculiar nostalgia that arrives not from memory, but from recognition. The sense that this song has been waiting for you. That's the true gift of anime openings. They return you to yourself. Whether you're a child in 1999 hearing Chala Head Chala or an adult rediscovering it decades later, the feeling is the same. The melody hasn't changed, but you have, and in that difference, you find peace. Beginnings, after all, are not about newness. They're about remembering how to feel. Fact 146. Some openings transcend even their shows, becoming myths in sound, eternal fragments of culture. A Cruel Angel's Thesis, Bluebird, Gureng, Unravel, We Are. These are not just songs, but constellations. They orbit our lives, returning at random moments, in supermarkets, in headphones, in dreams. Their power lies not in nostalgia alone, but in adaptability. Each generation hears them differently, as inspiration, comfort, or farewell. They remind us that art never belongs to one time. It renews itself through every listener who decides to press play again, letting the dream resume from the start. Fact 147. Even silence carries the memory of openings. Sometimes, when a show begins without music, the absence feels profound, a reminder of how much emotion those first notes once held. This contrast deepens appreciation, as if the universe of anime itself breathes between sound and stillness. We realize that the opening theme is not just prelude, it is emotional foundation. Without it, the story feels unanchored. The silence asks us to remember the music we've internalized, to hum it quietly in our hearts, to fill the empty space with memory's own private chorus. Fact 148. The endless replay of openings online, millions of views, remixes, analyses reveals how humanity turns art into communion. Every looped video, every "I can't stop watching this" is an act of meditation disguised as fandom. People watch to remember, to feel continuity in a chaotic world. These openings become anchors against impermanence, small, luminous rituals of comfort. When the same melody plays again and again, it doesn't lose meaning, it gains it. Each repetition says, "I'm still here." Each chorus says, "We're still connected." And that unspoken bond is what keeps the music alive. Fact 149. Creators, too, have described anime openings as the soul's first impression. Directors storyboard them last, but place them first, knowing that emotion precedes understanding. The visuals and song together create an atmosphere of trust, a promise that what follows will matter. Some directors even claim the opening is their truest message, the part they pour themselves into most fully, knowing it will be seen and felt countless times. That repetition immortalizes intent, making each opening a self-portrait of the artist's heart, forever repeating its own quiet declaration of love for creation itself. Fact 150. And so we return, gently, to where we began, to the thought that anime openings are more than music or animation. They are dreams wrapped in rhythm, fragments of human longing preserved in melody. They begin, they end, and then they begin again, looping through decades, whispering softly that no story ever truly fades. Somewhere, a screen glows, a note rises, and a heart stirs. The cycle continues. This is the endless opening, the sound of memory breathing, of imagination singing itself awake, of time folding quietly into eternity with every replayed refrain.